believers, do they? Because Bible believers will preach anything in the book. But we're going to talk, say a few words about Abishag tonight. And the reason being is she's called a minister. And so let's read 1 Kings chapter 1, and we'll start here in verse 1. And it says, Now King David was old and stricken in years, and they covered him with clothes, but he got no heat. Wherefore his servant said unto him, Let there be sought for my lord the king a young virgin, and let her stand before the king, and let her cherish him, and let her lie in thy bosom, that my lord the king may get heat. So they sought for a fair damsel throughout all the coasts of Israel, and found Abishag a Shunammite, brought her to the king, and the damsel was very fair, and cherished the king, and ministered to him, but the king knew her not. And I think it says that down in verse 15 too. It says, Abishag the Shunammite ministered unto the king. So this is not a lot said about this person or this story in the Bible, and to our American eyes, it looks very odd, does it not? But we don't need to look at this like an American through our eyes. Let's remember the fact that King David had not just one wife. Let's even back up further than that. This is the day of monarchies, of ultimate ruleship, and if you were the man who was the king, you literally had the rights to everything. And that's why he got in trouble with Bathsheba and Uriah, is because he said, I'm the king, I can have her. And Christ or God said, no, you can't. And that's how he got in trouble with that whole story. But David, first thing to just remember with this is David already had 8 wives, I think. I think if we go back to 2 Samuel chapter, is it 2 or 3? When David goes back to the land of Jerusalem, back to start the kingship of Jerusalem, and I think it's 2 Samuel chapter 3. It mentions 6, I think, here. Unto David these sons were born in Hebron, and his firstborn was, and then it goes on down, and it lists his wives. I think there's more in Chronicles that you could find. So David had 8 wives, I think, by my count, and this just would have been another one, presumably. He also had concubines. So these are some weird words to hear today, aren't they? What's the difference between a wife and a concubine? Well, it's the children. The children of a wife got the full privileges of the marriage, whereas the children of the concubine did not get the full privileges of the marriage. They got some things, but a child of a concubine could never receive the full inheritance as a child of a wife could. You say, these are some strange things to be saying about it. Did God approve of any of this? No, it's not that God approved of it. Remember what God said in Matthew chapter, 19? He says, the times of this ignorance. That's not Matthew 19, but in Matthew 19 it talks about the hardness of their heart. He allowed this stuff to happen, right? And then in Acts chapter 19, he talks about the Old Testament folks, how at the times of their ignorance, God winked at it, meaning that he kind of closed one eye to it, didn't demand righteousness out of it yet. The times of their ignorance God winked at, but now, when we get into the New Testament, the cross of Jesus Christ, hath God commanded all men everywhere to repent. So there's definitely like a timetable swing where God allowed these things to happen. This just because the story's in here that this man had 8 wives and 10 concubines, that is not a mark of approval. It's what happened with these peoples. And you could look at any of the kings, not just Israel. I'm saying any of the nations back at these days, and that's what they were all doing. And that's why God didn't want them to have a king to begin with, is because the Israelites wanted a king because that's what the other nations were doing, right? The other nations, well, they wanted to multiply their wives so they could multiply their kids so that they could have one that would inherit the throne. And then that one who would inherit the throne, they'd go around and they'd find their brothers and sisters and they'd kill them all so that they would be the one that would be full right to the throne. It was bloody, wicked times. If you were a British man, that might come out different than I said it. They were wicked and bloody times. Wow. So get that out of the way. There's nothing strange in this context, the cultural context, about this story happening. But the second thing you need to notice is what this lady did and what her job was. And you need to think of the word nurse, because that's what this person was. This was a private, personal nurse to the King David. And now David was old and stricken in years, and they covered him with clothes, but he got no heat. Okay, how old do you think that is? You'd kind of think that somebody like this is, in American days, this is the kind of person that we're going to find at a nursing home whose family doesn't come and visit them ever. Right? That's what we're talking about right here. And what do those people in the nursing home have? They have nurses that meet their needs. And the more expensive the nursing home, the more their needs are met. Right? He got no clothes, he got no heat, wherefore his servant said unto him, let there be sought for my lord the king a young virgin, and let her stand before the king. Okay, stand before the king, let her cherish him. Let her lie in thy bosom, that my lord the king may get heat. So they sought for a fair damsel throughout all the coasts of Israel, and found Abishag a Shunammite, and brought her to the king. And the damsel was very fair, and cherished the king, and ministered to him, but the king knew her not. So this particular lady, she didn't become a wife or a concubine. Okay, we know by the continuation of this story that Adonijah, verse 5, Adonijah, the son of David, David's son, Adonijah, he tried to take over the throne. Okay, this is why other kings, they would kill all the sons. Or once you became king, your first job was to kill all of your brothers. That's what the world did. And God's people didn't follow that, even though they weren't living totally under what God wanted them to do. There was still the law of God, which says you don't do that. But Adonijah tried to steal the throne, and he makes a play on the throne. So he makes a play here, but then Solomon and Bathsheba, and Solomon defends his right of inheritance that David gave to him. That's throughout this whole chapter here. So Solomon becomes king, but Adonijah still makes another play for the throne. And what does he do? What is his other play that he makes for the throne? Well, that's in chapter 2. Verse 10, David dies, he sleeps with his father, Solomon becomes king. And verse 13, Adonijah, the son of Haggith, came to Bathsheba, the mother of Solomon. She said, comest thou peaceably? And he said, peaceably. He said, moreover, I have somewhat to say. And she said, say on. Thou knowest that the kingdom was mine. Yeah, no, it wasn't. That all Israel set their faces on me. No, they didn't. And that I should reign, howbeit the kingdom is turned about and has become my brother's, for it was his from the Lord. Now I ask one petition of thee, deny me not. She said, say on. Speak, I pray thee, unto Solomon the king, for he will not say thee nay. He did. That he give me Abishag, the Shunammite, to wife. Why? And Bathsheba says, well, I will speak for the king unto thee. And Solomon's asked in verse 22, why dost thou ask Abishag the Shunammite for Adonijah? Ask for him the kingdom also. So what was this a play? This was a play for the kingdom. Adonijah wanted Abishag to wife, and this was probably his second or third or fourth would have been. Right? Adonijah wanted Abishag to wife so that he could make another play for the kingdom. Now, in the context of this day and age, you got to think, I'm probably taking too much time on this because I'm not even getting to the sermon, I'm just giving the history of this, but if you were to go back to 2 Samuel chapter 3, when Saul has already passed away and his children doesn't, it is 2 Samuel chapter 3, verse 6, King Saul has passed away and David is being transitioned into the full kingdom of the full kingship of the full kingdom. verse 6, 2 Samuel 3:6, that it came to pass there was war between the house of Saul and the house of David, and Abner made himself strong for the house of Saul. Abner wasn't the king. It wasn't the son of Saul. Ishbosheth was. But verse 7, Saul had a concubine whose name was Rizpah, the daughter of Aiah, and Ishbosheth, that's Saul's son, said to Abner, "Wherefore hast thou gone in unto my father's concubine?" i.e., why are you making a play on the throne? Why are you making a play for the throne? Okay, do you remember when David was chased out of the kingdom by his son, what's his son's name? Absalom. Do you remember what Absalom did? The very first thing that Absalom did? He took the 10 concubines of David, publicly made a public show that these concubines are mine. Understanding why, because that was a play on the throne. When he's doing that, it's a political move to establish that those concubines that belong to David are now mine. And then when David came back, it's a funny thing, but it says, get this, because most people don't get this. When David came back and got the kingdom back, those concubines were considered Absalom's, not his. And because Absalom died, they were in widowhood, and the Bible specifically states they lived their ends out in widowhood, even though David was their living first husband. A lot of fundamentalists, they don't get that. They don't understand. They don't think that thing through just as it is. But doing that was a play on the throne. So Saul had a concubine whose name was Rizpah, the daughter of Aiah. Ishbosheth said to Abner, "Wherefore hast thou gone into my father's concubine?" Then was Abner very wroth for the words of Ishbosheth, saying, "Am I a dog's head, which against Judah do show kindness this day unto the house of Saul thy father and his brothers his kings? Have delivered thee." And then he walks away because he was offended at the accusation. Because Abner was a servant to the house of Saul. So let's go back to Kings. Now that's all kind of the history. These are things you kind of have to be able to understand to know what's going on here. This lady did not become a wife or a concubine, but she did have a political place, and Adonijah wanted to make a play on that. Now, this lady, Abishag, is from Shunammite. She's from Issachar. Issachar, not much is said about Issachar. A couple prophecies about Issachar in Genesis and Deuteronomy, but the Shunammite, that's of course that lady in later on that Elijah ministered to, from Shunem. This lady Abishag became a nurse to David here, and there's a key word here. There's two key words, and you want to see this word minister because that's what I've been talking about. But you want to see how she ministered to him. In verse 2, it says, "Let there be sought for my lord the king a young virgin. Let her stand before the king. Let her cherish him." That's the key word. That's the key word in this passage. Cherish him. Let her lie in thy bosom, that my lord the king may get heat. So they sought for a fair damsel throughout all the coasts of Israel, and found Abishag, a Shunammite, and brought her to the king. And the damsel was very fair, and cherished the king, and ministered to him. Cherished and ministered to him. So they sought for someone to cherish him, but when she came, she cherished him. You know, that word cherish isn't used much in the Bible. As a matter of fact, it's used here, and it's used in Ephesians 5:29. Ephesians 5:29. Ephesians 5:29. Of course, we'll read it, verse 28. "So ought men to love their wives as their own bodies. He that loveth his wife loveth himself. For no man ever yet hated his own flesh, but nourisheth and cherisheth it, even as the Lord the church. No man hateth his own flesh, but nourisheth and cherisheth." What the devil tell the Lord in accusation against Job? "Flesh or skin for skin, yea, all that a man hath will he give for his own life." For your own body, you'll do anything to protect your own flesh. protect your body. You do anything to make the extra money to give yourself whatever pleasure that you have and buy yourself toys and make you fun and happy. Eat the foods. I mean, all of us guys, sorry guys, all of us guys, we got a little gut because we nourish and cherish our flesh, don't we? Amen, amen, amen. Cherishing it is you're going to take care of your own body, right? The only other time that this word is used in the Bible anywhere is in 1 Thessalonians chapter 2. So you're taking care of your flesh. So as the picture was, as the Lord does the church, because they're one body, the Lord cherishes the body of the church. Okay? And look what it says here in 1 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 7. It says, but we were gentle among you, even as a nurse cherisheth her children. Nurse cherish your children as the Christ cherishes the church, as a man cherishes. That's what we're dealing with in 1 Kings chapter 1. In reality, what this is this is a type of the church. This Abishag right here is a picture of the church. It's a picture of the Lord taking care of the church. And it's a picture of the church taking care of our ministries that we have. Okay, so here's this lady. You say, well, why did they choose someone who's a virgin, and why did they choose someone who's very fair? Well, again, this is a picture of the church, to where what does Christ identify the church as? He identifies the church as a virgin. We weren't clean outside of him. He made us clean, right? And then to pick a damsel who was very fair, well, this is a picture, and this is a type of Christ. Well, did you ever read in Ezekiel, and I don't want to turn there, but did you ever read in Ezekiel when God comes by and he finds a woman that is not in the best state? She's been abused in all ways, and she's lying on the road, bloody, left for dead, and then this king walks by. And this king walks by and finds this lady laying there and not loved by anybody, being just discarded. And the king comes by and kneels down to this young lady and says, live, yea, I say unto thee, live. And he picks her up and cleans her up and brings her into the household and washes her and gives her clothes to wear and sets a throne on her head and jewelry, and just decks her out and treats her as, makes this lady who was discarded by the world, makes her a treasure. What is that? That's a picture of the church. And so this young lady who is said to be very fair, well, that's what Christ, again, has done for us, is he's made us clean. He's made the church, saved it, reconciled it, cleansed it up, made the church his future bride. He took dirty mothballs and he made them clean, and he made it to be his bride that he's going to marry, and he made us to be somebodies. He took discarded Gentiles who have no value, and we have the utmost, most precious value within inside of Jesus Christ. Virgin who's very fair. He said, there's nothing special about me. Well, no, Christ has made you special. You have that. You are very fair inside of Jesus Christ. Now, cherishing is, this young lady was a nurse to this king. And we're using that from Thessalonians, as a nurse cherisheth her children. That's what she's doing. The king's not a child, but in some ways, when you get to that age, and you're just like a child, and you hear those awful jokes about how a success for a child is being able to walk all by yourself, being able to go potty all by yourself. And, it goes on, and then it goes up, and then as you get older, it reverses to where when you're 80, 90, 100 years old, success is being able to go potty by yourself and walk by yourself. I hate that line of reasoning, because that's going to be us someday, But this king, you can imagine, if he was in our society today, he'd be locked into a nursing home, and no one would come and talk to him. No one would spend around him. And they got him because he's the king, and they wanted to give him the best. They got him a personal maid or a personal nurse to be able to take care of him. And she cherished the king, and she ministered to him. She was chosen on account of her youth, because it's hard to care for an adult. It's hard to care for an older person. I'm going to be the crankiest old man that there's ever going to be. And if I have a nurse, that person's going to have a lot of grace with me. I'm cranky now, and I'm only halfway there. I'm going to be cranky. There's these sweet old men in the nursing homes. They're great. There ain't none of them in my family. Then there's cranky ones, and that's who I'm going to be. This youth was chosen because of her youth, because of her vigor, her energy, and because of her beauty. And she ministered. She waited on him like a personal attendant and a nurse. And if you want to notice this ministering and this cherishing, by the way, cherish means to hold, to treat with tenderness and affection. In some ways, actually, if you ever read Augustine's City of God, which who's read that, but there's the word cherished in there, cherish as the hen doth her eggs with heat. So cherish has been used to keep warm or to give warmth or ease or comfort to. Cherish is to take affectionate care of, to keep, or to guard carefully. Those are all dictionary definitions. To cheer up, to gladden the spirit, to encourage. Those are all words that come from cherish. Abishag was chosen to give the proper respect and honor to this old man. So what is the ministering part of this? I think I've probably gone a little bit over tonight, but what's the ministering part of this? The ministering part of this was that she was chosen to minister, to serve somebody who there was just nothing in it for her. There was nothing in this for her. It produced no future for her, produced no income for her. If this is anything like any of the other concubines, which I know she wasn't, so maybe this wasn't like that, but if it's something like that situation I just explained to you with David, where those concubines were there, those concubines got locked away and they lived in widowhood till the day they died. And I don't know, maybe that happened with this young lady, is that she just got put away somewhere for the rest of her lives, and she was chosen to minister to the king for a couple of years. Maybe that didn't happen because she didn't actually become a concubine or a wife. But at this present moment right here, there's nothing about this. For her, it's all about him. It was totally selfless, and it was ministering to a person that had no value in society. Right? Older people do not have much of a value in society. And I lived in a country of Ukraine where it was former communism. They do not like old people because you don't produce anything. You're worthless. That's what they say. And so there's no respect given to an older person. Well, I just want to say that's not Bible. Okay? That's not scriptural whatsoever. The scriptural way is that the elder man who has the gray head on his hair, the hair in his head, that if he's got any hair at all, that person is to be shown great honor and respect, and is supposed to be ministered to and taken care of and helped. That's the Bible way. So this lady goes and ministers, and she cherishes. And cherishing as a nurse doth her children, as cherishing as a man does his own physical health and his own body. And here she is ministering to him. She eased his days. She provided comfort for his dying body. She protected him and gave him physical nourishment. Nothing wicked. This is a parallel with what a Christian's calling is to do, is to be a minister for Christ, and not just in words but in actions, and called to minister by serving, called to cherish, to be self-sacrificing for the people that God has given to us. God, thank you for this picture and this night. Thank you for Abishag. Lord, the world makes this out to be something it's not, and Lord, I'm thankful for the picture that it is. And God, remind us of this cherishing. Show us how we can cherish and how we can minister to others that are here and then others that aren't. And God,